Hi everybody, so as promised, I am making a few videos. This will be the first of many about my food. And so I'd like to say that only recently people have asked me about what I've eaten. That's actually not true. That's actually been since my younger girl days, my bodybuilding days, working at hospitals as an x-ray tech. I've had people always asking me and actually opening up the refrigerator and looking to see what I'm packing for lunch. It's always kind of come up. So I just want to talk about some of the things that I'm eating right now that are working for me and why I'm eating them. So first off, I am a vegan. I'm not going to preach about being a vegan here. You're welcome to substitute any of the proteins that, so if you're getting ideas about meals, you can use your animal proteins, it's fine. But I am a vegan, so all my proteins are going to be plant-based. So I'll talk to you about that a little bit. Even if you have an interest in plant-based diets, you can get some ideas here, hopefully. All right, so right now I am in like a bodybuilding mode. I am trying to put on muscle size. My goal is to kind of gain about 8 to 10 pounds within the course of the next year by 2022. I do have someone that I'm working with that has set macros for me based on my output in my workouts, the way I'm looking, my measurements, strictly on the way I look and feel. She's formulating my macros for me, but she doesn't tell me what to eat. So I went with this coach from this company because they believe in flexible dieting, which is what I believe in. She does not, again, tell me what to eat. She just tells me how many macronutrients I need a day in protein, carbohydrates, and fats. So that being said, I'm going to kind of get the protein out of the way first because that's the easiest. I'm just going to move some of these away. So my proteins right now are, listen, for the most part, on a regular, ordinary week, I'm using these meatless crumbles by Noble Plate. I'm not sponsored by them. It's just what I'm doing. It's pea protein. It's dehydrated. It's one ingredient only. It's pea protein. And one of the reasons why, or not one, just the only reason why I'm using it is because it's incredibly high in protein. 1 cup of this reconstituted is 45 grams of protein. It's only 2 grams of carbohydrates, 3.5 grams of fat. I don't need a full cup of this with every meal, but it goes a long way. It's not really in my meal plan this week, but it usually is. It's been on my meal plan, so I did want to talk about that. This week, I am eating tofu. So I'm eating a tofu scramble because a friend of mine gave me a lot of firm tofu, not extra firm. So I made a tofu scramble. So that is one of my protein sources. The other is, again, another company that doesn't sponsor me. I just like their stuff. No evil. It is basically seitan. That's what it is. It's another really high protein, low carbohydrate, low fat. It's wheat gluten. So if you're gluten sensitive, it's not something that you would want. I'm not, and I love it. And seitan sausage. So I use field roast. This is really wonderful. I have made my own. I can't make my own that is good as this, so I make this. So we'll talk about what's with that too as well. But these are my main protein sources, with the exception of now protein powder. You know, my favorite is Live Body Protein. I love Live Body Protein powder. It's vegan. Again, not sponsored, but I am an ambassador for them, but I really, really love this. The other one that I love, did I not bring it over here? Oh, okay, is Four Sigmatic. This is actually slightly higher in carbohydrates, and it's more for recovery. It has some mushroom extracts in it, and I really like this, so I've been using this too as well. I'll talk about that in a second. All right, so I do use this protein powder, very easily digestible, and I use this every day. I do have this every single day. All right, the most complicated, if there's anything complicated about what I eat, is my carbohydrates. Right now, my coach has me eating 200 grams of carbohydrates a day, and that is based on, again, my output and I'm incredibly active. On top of weight training, I pole, I teach pole, yoga, all the above. So my carbohydrates, the C word, right? Nobody wants to talk about carbohydrates. Everyone thinks they're so bad. Carbohydrates are amazing for you, and you should be eating some carbohydrates. But not all carbohydrates are the same, right? And that's where I might differ in some of my meal prep. I base my carbohydrate intake and what I'm eating during the week based on the amount of energy I'm putting out in that day. So for example, on an off day, I'm just strictly sticking with a lot of veggies and things like a complex low glycemic carbohydrate like this. This is a Japanese sweet potato. I stick with low glycemic, high complex carbs and veggies. This week I'm doing spaghetti squash. So good for you. Spaghetti squash that's obviously a carbohydrate, but it's a really low carbohydrate. It's more for my veggies. I'm also eating a lot of greens this week too as well. But during training days, so days where I work out with free weights and I pole and I teach, I'm also eating higher glycemic carbohydrates like white potatoes. And, well, I will tell you, I make these. Sometimes protein bars, I have several that I like, but I also make these little peanut butter cups. Like, they're not really just peanut butter, but it's one of the ways I get my fat. It's probably the only way really, is nut butters and then naturally occurring. But I have these on training days. They are simple carbohydrates too as well, because they have sugar. So on days that I train and I need to replenish muscle glycogen pretty quickly, I'm going to eat these after I work out. I only really have half of one. I have a half of one when I work out and a half of one before on days that I work out with free weights. That's 5 days a week. So 5 days a week, I'm eating low and high glycemic carbs in almost in my pre-workout, my post-workout meal, and veggies. But on the days that I don't train, so on Tuesdays and Saturdays when I'm supposed to be off and resting, I just stick with mostly vegetables and a complex carb. I don't get too much into the simple carbs on those days where I'm not having to replace muscle glycogen really quickly. So this would kind of just be lunch and dinner for me. I do weigh my food. I have a certain amount of grams of things that I have to eat a day. So I have my little food scale. So my lunch, this is 4 meals for me. This is whether I'm gonna have it for lunch or dinner, but it's 4 servings of spaghetti squash and then 4 servings. These little sausages have high in protein. I think they're like 23 or 24 grams of protein. A sausage, they're 12 grams of carbs. So they attribute to some of the carbohydrates too, because the spaghetti squash is really low. And I make my own tomato sauce, so I would put that on there sometimes too as well. I also have chickpeas, so I also use, I air fry these. This was really cool. I air fried these chickpeas. A half a cup of chickpeas gives you 21 grams of very low glycemic carbohydrates, really low. Like, I think it's in the 20s somewhere. I will toss these in with something that doesn't have as many carbohydrates, just to kind of, again, give you a lot of bang for your buck. And it gives you protein. There's 6 grams of protein and a half a cup of chickpeas, so it will add to the protein. So this is breakfast and lunch pretty much, dinner and lunch pretty much for me this week, and pre and post workout. That being said, I guess what I'm leaving out is breakfast. And I've wanted to talk about this because people have been asking me. I make a mug cake with this protein powder. The peanut butter cups were made with this protein powder and peanut butter. And I'm actually gonna make these in a separate YouTube video. I'm gonna post it so you can see, and I'll put the macros here for that. For breakfast, just about every day of the week, I am eating a mug cake. And I'm gonna be honest, sometimes at night I eat it too. So I make it with this protein powder, a high protein, it's okay. My dog's kind of growling, but it's okay, I'm moaning. A high protein flour, this actually has gluten in it. So if you are gluten sensitive, light whole wheat gluten, so it's actually high in protein, chickpea and lentil. If you're sensitive to gluten, you can substitute this. You can substitute oat flour or regular flour or gluten-free flour. It's fine. It is going to change the macros a little bit. This just gives you more protein. I really like this. I just get this actually online. It's really easy to find online. Sometimes it's out of stock. It's really popular. So I make this little protein cake. I'm going to make it so you can see it, and then I will put the macros for you and the recipe for you in the comments section, because everyone's been asking me about this cake that I'm eating. So it's 1 scoop of Live Body protein. This is the birthday cake flavor. I really like the frosted oatmeal cookie, and I also have the chocolate mocha, so sometimes I make like a brownie one, but the birthday cake is the most neutral. And then it's 2 tablespoons of high protein flour. This is 10 grams of protein right here. This flour is awesome. And then I do a quarter of a teaspoon. I'm actually going to eat this when we're done. A quarter teaspoon of baking powder. Yes, I make this so much that I know it by heart. And a quarter teaspoon, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to show you what I'm using. This is a blend, a stevia regular sugar blend. It's for baking. I just put a little bit in there. I'm going to whisk it up. And then I'm going to add, again, I'm eyeballing because I do this so much, I know what it is, 1/4 of a cup of pea milk. I use pea milk because it's really high in protein, low in carb, low in fat. I don't get flavored or sweetened milk. And I'm going to stir it, and it's going to look like cake batter, but I need a little tiny bit more. I'm going to get it out of my whisk in a second. It's a little bit chomped up in my... And then I'm going to add my fat. So I don't add cooking oil to my food. My fats are predominantly coming from nut butter because I'm a little bit of a nut butter freak. And then if I need extra fat at the end of the day, sometimes I'll just like get that in there somehow. But I love nut butter. I'm a huge peanut butter fan, but in this particular recipe, cashew butter is the best. And I do like peanut butter though in this often. I'm not a huge almond butter person, everybody, full disclosure. I think it's way too expensive, and I think the texture is really weird of almond butter, but cashew butter in this is just really awesome, in my humble opinion. All right, so I'm gonna stir that up, and then, again, I eat this every morning for breakfast. Super high in protein, low in carb, believe it or not, considering what I've just put in here. And then I am gonna put in a little chocolate chips. A little goes a long way. These are vegan chocolate chips, and really I only put a little bit, maybe like a 1/2 tablespoon. It's my helper, Grizzly Bear. His head is appropriately table height, so he can help out with any food spills. And then I just stir it up in my little mug. I usually eat the stuff that's on the spatula, and I stick it in the microwave. I'll come back. It's a whole 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes in the microwave. It comes out like a little mug. So cake in a mug, and I just eat it right out of the mug. It's my favorite thing in the world. That's what I'm eating for breakfast. It's that easy. So I'll put the macros for that down below. And because people do ask me about these little things, I've taken them into my studio, and people have had these, plus these little protein balls that I make. So I'll make this one too. This is, again, a really nice pre and post workout. Honestly, it's just melted vegan chocolate, and I make a peanut butter filling out of this protein powder, which has a lot of really good muscle. It's a recovery protein powder. It has a lot of good mushroom extract in it, and then I do use a little regular peanut butter, and that's how I make the filling. It's super good. They're really good. So anyway, any questions, anyone, just you can comment below, or you can send me a little DM. But I will be sharing more about what I eat and why I eat on my YouTube channel. I'm hoping to have that up by Monday or so, or learning how to edit videos, which is not great. Oh, one other thing, the only supplements that I take is creatine or creatine, that's it, and hydrating aminos that I drink during my workout. I'm not a huge pill popper. I really do believe that food is healthcare, and I try and get as much of my vitamins. My multivitamin is really what I eat. So again, this is not just what I eat. Obviously I'll throw in some greens, a lot of veggies, sometimes some fruit. Honestly, I'm not a huge fruit eater. I like bananas and some berries sometimes, but I'm not. I'd rather eat vegetables, to be honest. So But anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below or send me a DM. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.